Rapunzel by the Brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, there was a man and a woman who had wanted a child for a long time. Then one day, the woman believed that her wish would be granted at last. Their house had a little window at the back, which looked out over a magnificent garden filled with beautiful flowers and all kinds of wonderful herbs and vegetables. The garden was surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to enter it, because it belonged to a powerful witch. One day, as the woman stood at the window and looked into the garden, she noticed a bed full of splendid radishes, which looked so fresh and so delicious that she longed to eat them. The longing to eat those radishes grew stronger day by day. And since this honest woman knew she could never have them, she grew thinner and became pale and weak. Her husband became worried and asked, "What is the matter, my dear wife?" "Alas," she said, "if I cannot eat some radishes from the garden behind us, I will die." Her husband, who loved her very much, said, "I will not let you die, wife." At dusk, he climbed over the wall and went into the witch's garden, where he hastily picked a handful of radishes and brought them to his wife. Immediately, she made a salad out of it and greedily ate it. They tasted so delicious that the next day her desire for more was even greater. To keep her contented, her husband knew he would have to be brave and go to the garden again. He waited until evening, when it began to get dark. But when he jumped down from the wall, he found himself face to face with the witch. "How dare you come into my garden and steal my radishes?" she said furiously. "Alas," he replied, "I did not come here by my own free will, but I was forced to because of the danger that is threatening my wife." She saw your radishes from her window and had such a desire that she believed that she would die if she could not eat them. Then the witch said, If everything you have told me is true, I will allow you to take as many radishes as you want. In return, you must give me the child your wife will bear. The child will have a good home, and I will be a mother to it." The man was so terrified that he agreed to everything. When his wife gave birth to a little girl, the witch came to their home and took the baby away with her. She called her Rapunzel. Rapunzel became the most beautiful little girl under the sun. When she was 12 years old, the witch locked her up in a tower in the middle of the forest. The tower had neither stairs nor doors, only a little tower at the top. Every time the witch wanted to go up to the top of the tower, she stood underneath and cried out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had wonderful long hair, as fine as spun gold. Whenever she heard the witch calling, she unpinned her hair, fastened it around one of the window hooks, and let it all fall to the ground. Then the witch climbed up the golden rope. It so happened that the king's son was riding through the forest one day. As he passed nearby the tower, he heard such a glorious sound that he drew up his horse to listen. The beautiful sound was Rapunzel, trying to pass the time by singing. In vain, the prince looked for a door into the tower. However, the song touched his heart so much that he returned to the forest every single day to listen to it. One day, he saw the witch come to the foot of the tower. The prince hid behind a tree to watch and heard her say, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel then let down her long braids, and the witch climbed up. "So that is the way into the tower," he said to himself. "Well, I will just have to try my luck." The next day, at dusk, he went to the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel's hair tumbled down immediately, and the prince climbed up. At first, Rapunzel was terrified to see a strange man, but the prince told her gently that he had heard her sing and that his heart had been touched by her song. Rapunzel then forgot her fears. Then the prince asked if she would have him for her husband. She saw that he was so young and handsome, and he thought, she loves me more than the old witch does. So she agreed, and gave him her hand. The prince came to visit her every evening, and the witch, who only came during the day, knew nothing all about it. Then one day, Rapunzel said without thinking, "Tell me, how is that you are slow and heavy and pull my hair?" Whereas the prince climbs up to me so quickly. "You wicked child!" cried the witch. "What is this I hear? So you have deceived me." In her rage, she took Rapunzel's beautiful hair and wound it up a couple of times around her head. And snip snap, she quickly cut it off. All the golden hair and marvelous braids fell on the floor. Then the witch took Rapunzel to a very remote place and abandoned her to live in loneliness. That evening, as dusk fell, the witch hid herself in the tower. Soon the king's son arrived and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." When the witch heard this, she fastened poor Rapunzel's hair to the window and let it all fall to the ground. When the prince climbed up to the window, he found this wicked witch instead of his sweet Rapunzel. She looked at him with haunting evil eyes and said, "Rapunzel is lost to you forever. You will never see her again." The prince was devastated. In his misery, he fell from the window and landed in a bramble bush. He was not killed, but the thorns on the bush made him blind. Unable to think of life without Rapunzel, the young man wandered into the forest. He lived on berries and roots, and drifted in this way for many years, until one day he arrived by chance at the lonely place where Rapunzel lived in misery. All at once, he heard a voice that was familiar to him, and walked towards the sound. When he was close, Rapunzel recognized him. She was overjoyed to see him, but sad when she noticed his sightless eyes. She put her arms around his neck and wept. Two tears fell from her eyes into the eyes of the blind prince. Instantly, they became clear again, and he could see as he did before. When happily reunited with his love, he carried Rapunzel to his kingdom, where they married and lived happily ever after. The moral of the story is, you can't keep your children from all the evils of the world. You also can't stop the cycle of life. When something is destined to happen, then no one, no matter how much power one has, can stop that from happening. The end.